Okay, great, thank you. Welcome, everyone. This is the November 4th, 2025 Landmark Preservation Commission meeting, and I am calling this meeting to order at 1:01 p.m. First, we'll introduce ourselves as commissioners, and I'll start. My name is Erica Warzel. I'm an architectural historian and preservation consultant, and I was nominated by the community at large. Lars.
Hello, I'm Lars Bildman. I'm a business owner, general contractor, and nominated by the mayor's office.
I'm Bree Saman. I'm an interior designer and project manager, and I was nominated by the Denver Planning Board.
I'm Nick Fusianis. I'm an architect and developer, and I was nominated by the American Institute of Architects.
Chris McGinnis. I'm a forensic architect and nominated by the mayor's office.
And we have one commissioner with us virtually. We might be joined by another, Elizabeth.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon. Elizabeth Caswell Dyer, a business owner, and I was nominated by History Colorado.
Great, thank you. And I think we just were joined by Rusty.
Yes, I'm Rusty Brown. I'm an architect and I was nominated by the AIA.
And I'm Brittany Bryant. I'm Denver Landmark Preservation staff.
All right, before we begin with our agenda, this is an opportunity for any general comments from staff or commissioners. Anything?
I do not have anything.
Commissioners? Okay. Right, next we have a meeting record from our October 21st meeting. We do not need to have a motion and vote on these, but are there any comments or clarifications that we would like to note for staff? No. All right. Elizabeth and Rusty, I'll try to remember to look up at you, but please jump in if you're being ignored.
Will do.
Okay, great. Okay, so I think those meeting records are approved. We are ready to move on to our next. Before we begin inviting for public comment, I'll just go over some audio tips for those of you joining us virtually.
Am I not sharing the screen?
I am not, yeah.
So sorry.
All
I'm
right.
just clicking through the PowerPoint and not sharing.
Okay, so for those of you joining us virtually, we recommend that you download Zoom on your desktop, laptop, tablet, or mobile device. And from there, you can click on the audio settings to bring up an additional menu where you can add background noise suppression and test your speaker and microphone to adjust their maximum output volumes. If you are presenting or going to be making a comment, when it's your turn to speak, you can unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon at the bottom of your screen, and also expand the menu next to the microphone to reveal additional options such as selecting your speaker and microphone devices and testing them for adjusting their volume output. If you still have audio challenges, we ask that you switch to your phone for audio. All right. Now we are at the public comment period of our meeting. This is for any member of the public who would like to make a comment about either historic preservation in general or items on our consent review agenda, design review agenda, business items, and discussion items. Note that we do have a public hearing agenda item as well. We will be taking public comment on that agenda item at that time. So except for the public hearing agenda item, this is your chance to make any comment you'd like about our agenda items or preservation in general. If you would like to speak with us virtually, please raise your hand button in Zoom or dial *9 on your keypad to raise your hand if you're joining by phone. If you're having difficulty with either of these options, please email landmark@denvergov.org and provide your name and phone number so that we can recognize you from our end and call upon you. First, are there any folks here in person who would like to make a comment at this time? Yes, please, if you would come to the table, sit in front of the screen so those virtually can see you, And if you would give us your name, please, before you begin. And you have up to 2 minutes.
Hi, my name's Brad Cameron. I live at 1200 Humboldt Street here in Denver. And I'm here to talk about the city's proposal to do the First Avenue between University and Downey. And I think all of you have probably seen this flyer that I handed out. My message today is a simple one, which is that in this instance, design review delayed is likely to be design review denied. Here's why. First of all, this section of First Avenue is in the Spear Boulevard Historic District. It's not just a parkway, it's in the historic district. It was created in 1988. The city's proposal would radically redo this section. Currently, there's a very large, generous median with lots of trees. The city's proposal would pretty much eliminate that, rip out the trees for the most part and radically redo it. Bottom line, this project needs to go before you people for design review. Myself and others have been talking to Dottie about that, but the word from the city is that they don't think it needs to come before LPC until it has been funded. Now, please understand, this isn't in the vibrant bond issue this time. It was considered, but it's got a really big price tag of about 30 million. It didn't make the cut. But meanwhile, Dottie, as shown by the flyer, is moving forward, going towards what they call 30% design review. And that is when they feel that it's ready to be, they call it shovel ready for future consideration. And they're not wanting to come before LPC for it to be reviewed in terms of the guidelines for historic districts and for parkways. It needs to be done now in order for there to be meaningful input from LPC. Did I get my 2 minutes?
You did.
All right.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else here in person who would like to make a comment at this time, other than our public hearing agenda? Okay. Is there anyone joining us virtually who would like to make a comment? Please raise your hand if you would like to comment. Looks like we don't have any. Okay, great, thank you. Now we will move to our consent agenda. These are routine projects that Landmark staff has determined meet the design guidelines for the Denver landmark structures and districts and are recommended for commission approval without discussion. This may include violations already completed, partially or in full, or if a compliant solution is proposed. So we may approve these items as a group. However, if anyone on the commission would like to remove an item from this consent agenda and have it discussed under design review, we can do that. First, I'll ask, do commissioners have any ex parte contacts or conflicts of interest they need to announce? All right, so I'll go through the consent agenda items. They are application number 2025-COA-803 at 350 North Gaylord Street in the Country Club District. Number 2025-COA-532 at 1255 North Pennsylvania Street in the Pennsylvania Street Historic District. 2025-COA-902 at 1000 Chopper Circle at the Spear Boulevard District. 2025-COA-904 at 144 West Colfax Avenue in the Civic Center District. Number 2025-TAXC-021 at 621 North Colorado Boulevard in the East 7th Avenue District. And 2025-TAXC-032 at 119 East Vassar Avenue in the Vassar School Bungalows District. Commissioners, are there any items on this agenda that you would like to have moved to design review? All right, since there are none, would someone like to make a motion?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Thank you,
I
Nick.
will second.
Elizabeth. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, so the consent agenda has passed. If your project is part of that package just approved, you're welcome to leave the meeting, or of course you can stay and observe the rest of our meeting today. All right, we are now ready for our public hearing. I will announce this public hearing agenda. We are beginning it officially at 1:11. We will first, after having it announced, we'll hear from staff. After which we may question staff. We will then hear from the applicants for up to 2 minutes, and we may ask the applicants any questions. And then we will open it up for public comment period. This public comment on the public hearing is slightly different in that we ask you to give your name and address. And you have up to 3 minutes to make your comment before we then hear from staff for any clarifications if needed before we move into deliberation for a motion and vote. So this is the public hearing for application 2025 L-006 at 1407 East 11th Avenue, also known as the Gables. And we'll hear from Becca.
Did I need to turn on the? No, sorry. And I'll change the slide. Great, thank you. All right, good afternoon, Commission. As Erica mentioned, this is an individual designation application for 1407 East 11th Avenue, sited on the corner of Lafayette and 11th Avenue. This is in Council District 10, so Chris Heinz's district, in the Cheeseman Park neighborhood. And this is an owner-supported designation. We're joined by the owner and applicants online today. So, next slide. Just so you know, the boundary of the designation follows the lot and block lines of the historic structure. We don't have any unusual conditions for the boundary today. Next slide. So I'm going to briefly go over the criteria for becoming a Denver landmark, as well as the landmark program and how we get to where we are. Next slide. So as many of you know, the Denver's landmark ordinance, it was passed in 1967. This makes it one of the oldest landmark ordinances in the country. In fact, we're very proud of. And the purpose of this ordinance was to designate, preserve, and protect buildings in Denver, promote civic pride and good urban design. So that is the overarching mission of the landmark program, and we try and honor that mission through what we are landmarking. Next slide. So to date, we have 366 individual landmarks and 60 historic districts. Our historic districts are primarily residential in nature, though we do have 5 commercial districts. We also have 3 historic cultural districts, 5 Points Cultural District, La Alma Lincoln Park, and La Raza Park, and 2 thematic discontiguous districts. You can see that most of these districts and landmarks are really clustered in the center of the city, including the one that we're bringing to you today. Next slide. Overall, about 4.5% of the city is designated, so 1 in every 25 structures. This is pretty on par with national rates of designations. Next slide. In Denver, designation is a community-driven process, so it doesn't necessarily come from landmark staff, though we are certainly there to help people. So people who can apply for designation include the property owner, the manager of community planning and development, a city council member can bring forward a designation, or 3 residents of the city of Denver for a property that they do not own. Next slide. And to become a Denver landmark, there are pretty strict requirements. It must maintain its historic integrity, which is a little different from structural integrity, which we'll talk about in a minute. A structure must be more than 30 years of age, or it must be exceptionally important. It needs to meet at least 3 of 10 significance criteria, and the LPC must consider its historic context. Next slide. So we're going to walk through all of these requirements today and how they apply to the building at hand. So here's the big long list of significance criteria for becoming a Denver landmark. I wish that it had bolded a little better, but we're going to be talking specifically about criteria C, D, and G today. Next slide. So the Gables is the structure in front of you that's proposed for designation. It was constructed in 1914 to 1915, and in this current design that you see before you was designed by architect Montana Fallis, and it was an early adaptive reuse project in Denver. And these are sort of the 3 key pillars that are standing up this designation application today. Next slide. So first we'll talk about criterion C. Does it embody the distinctive visual characteristics of an architectural style or type? This application argues that the Gables apartment is a good example of the Tudor revival style. Built between 1914 and 15, the 3-story brick building embraces a style that was popular in Colorado in the 1910s and 20s. Distinguishing features of a style that are exhibited in the property include masonry construction, half timbering with stucco infill on the upper levels, multiple prominent cross gables, a tower, and a prominent porch with a masonry arch. Additionally, the building also has some craftsman elements, a style that emerged around the same time and a little later. These elements include overhanging eaves, exposed rafters, triangular knee braces, and porches with brick columns. And many of the windows have multiple panes over a sash with one large glass pane. So landmark staff does agree that this meets criterion C. Next slide. The next criterion we're looking at is criterion D. Is it a significant example of the work of a recognized architect or master builder? The application argues that the building was designed by prominent Denver architect Montana S. Fallis. Fallis began working in Denver in the late 1880s when he was hired by Frank Edbrooks architectural firm. We recognize that most of Fallis's works are of civic or commercial nature. One of the most prominent buildings he's known for, another Denver landmark, is the Mayan Theater that you see here. Other examples include the annex of the Oxford Hotel, as well as the Art Deco Berger Brothers building, one of my favorites in Denver. This is a very rare example of not only his residential style of architecture, but one working in the Tudor revival style. Montana Fallis hired Adam Stein, who was a well-known Denver builder, to be his contractor. You know, not without some controversy, it was his father-in-law that he hired. But Stein was an important builder in his own right. He was one of the charter members of Denver's Master Builder Association, and permit records between 1889 and 1914 list him working on over 27 different buildings. So he did do a lot of work in Denver. Next slide. And then the final criteria that we're looking at today is criterion G. Does this promote an understanding and appreciation of the urban environment by means of distinctive physical characteristics or rarity? So the Gables is a rare early example of adaptive reuse in the Capitol Hill neighborhood, which you might not expect from just looking at the pictures, but I think these Sanborn maps really help illustrate. So on the top, we have the Sanborn map from 1904, and then on the bottom, we have the Sanborn map that's corrected to 1925. And you can see that there are two historic buildings, single-family buildings that have then sort of been subsumed into this apartment building. So rather than building an apartment building, which was also pretty common at the time for Capitol Hill, things were changing in the neighborhood. They were going from single-family mansions to more multifamily living. Fallis decided, instead of demolishing the buildings and creating a new structure, he built upon what he already had. So this was a pretty uncommon design in Denver and makes this a very unique resource. During this time in Capitol Hill, single-family homes were either subdivided on the inside to make multiple dwellings with few or no exterior changes to the building, or they were demolished to make way for new structures. Apartment construction at the time was usually pretty straightforward, as evidenced by extant apartment buildings from around 1905 to 1920. You think Poets Row, other areas like that. So it was pretty commonplace to see a lot of those changes, but this is a very unique instance where two single-family homes were combined into one. So the application argues that the Gables was an example of early and intentional adaptive reuse rather than demolishing both houses. Next slide. So in addition to these significance criteria, we also need to take into consideration the building's historic integrity. One of the often cited rules of thumb is, would the prior residents be able to recognize the property if they walked by today? Based on the period of significance. Next slide. So we may think, oh, the owners of the single-family homes would not necessarily recognize this as being their house. But if you look at the historic photos of from when it was converted into a multi-family property, it does retain good historic integrity, and that's intimately tied to its period of significance. So there have been minimal alterations since 1915. It's in its original location. It maintains its integrity of feeling, setting, and association as being the residential Capitol Hill neighborhood. It also maintains its integrity of design, materials, and workmanship to that 1915 appearance. Next slide. And then just for the LPC to consider, the historic context that we're thinking about when we're looking at this is the changing character of the Capitol Hill neighborhood at the turn of the 20th century as it moves from that upper class, single family, sort of millionaire's row to the multifamily, lower class apartment living that we still know today. And as I mentioned, the period of significance for the property is 1914 to 1915. Related to that significance of it becoming that multifamily building. Next slide. As of Monday, November 5th, we have received one letter in support of the designation from Neighbors for Greater Capitol Hill. That letter was forwarded to you all on Friday. And so just to wrap up with our last slide, as this property is over 30 years of age and it meets at least 3 criteria and retains its historic integrity, Landmark staff is recommending that LPC approve the project and forward it to City Council for their review.
Thank you, Becca. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff?
Do you know any photos of the original 2 single family? By any chance, do you?
So not included in the application and not that I could find. I know the consultant, Christy, who wrote the application is online, so you may ask her. But I don't know that we do have those photos. I think the samples are what we were looking at.
This will also be a question I ask for the applicant, but do you think, I found the overhead, seeing the Sanborn that you presented that wasn't in the application, but also seeing the aerial view of the building helps kind of see those 2 original houses, but it seems to me that it might be helpful to have some sort of general summary. It doesn't have to be in great detail of what exactly was added to these two houses? Did they was a story added to them? Was it just in between? Kind of where things were added? And do you think, is that possible to add as a potential condition if commissioners were in agreement with me to then, but still have it go forward to city council?
Yeah, I think
at
that
this
could
point?
be a good achievable condition. Add Sanborn's additional photographs. There might be interior photographs that you can see where those buildings.
And or if the north elevation, which I know is a little hard, I imagine because of the neighboring property, but I know there was mention of some physical evidence on the north side that wasn't actually presented image wise that might help.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page because it's a little bit of a leap, right, from the two single family to this, pretty large structure and being in that G adaptive reuse category. Like, is that really, that's my question.
I think I kind of, well, we'll deliberate, yeah. Okay, thank you, Becca. All right, I think we're ready to hear from the applicants now who are with us virtually.
So I think if you allow Amy and then Christy.
Good afternoon. My name's Amy Anneberg Klein. I am the daughter of the current owner, Marilee Anneberg, who's here with me today. Our family originally purchased this building in 1949. So for 77 years, we've gotten to be the stewards of the legacy of this unique property in Denver. And we appreciate your consideration of helping us protect this property.
The Gables has always been part of my family. So it seems I was a very young child when it first joined my family. My parents took extremely good care of things, kept things in character, and loved art forms and beauty all along. I am glad to have received this property from my mother as a legacy of her long-term care, and have been working to continue to take care of the property. It tells so many stories. It's such a beautiful location in Denver. And I appreciate Denver looking at buildings and seeing history, telling stories, and helping us all keep track of where we've come from at the same time as we look at where we're going. I appreciate you looking at this property carefully and look forward to seeing it play a big role in the future of Denver, the Capitol Hill area, and the vicinity of. Thank you.
Thank you. Christy, did you want to say anything?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Christy Miniello with Miniello Consulting. I also reside at 1340 Rosemary Street here in Denver. And as Becca mentioned, I prepared this application. First, I'm so glad that Historic Denver connected Marilee and Amy with me to help them with pursuing landmark designation for this unique property. I just wanted to share that of all the properties I've documented over the years, this is the first one I've encountered that took two existing two-story single-family homes and combined them into one larger apartment building. So it definitely has a lot of interest from the street. The inside is quirky and somehow it all works. Like, it's just a really interesting example of adaptive reuse. It was also one of the more complicated architectural descriptions I've written, but at the same time, it was one of the more satisfying applications to prepare as the various pieces started to fit together. And to address those couple of questions that I heard from the commission. So unfortunately, I was not able to track down any photos of the original homes as they were before being combined into the apartment building that we see today. There was one photo that looks northwest from Cheeseman Park over the neighborhood, and possibly rooftops of those houses were captured in the photo, but it's really, really difficult to determine. So that piece was a little unsatisfying to not be able to flesh out. So I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have about the application, and just thank you for your time.
Thank you. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicants?
Christy, is there any evidence of an elevation or foundation or interior walls or any elements of the old two single family homes that are still present in the structure today?
Yes, definitely through how the corridors are pieced together among those two distinct homes, just the way they're connected throughout there. But then also, I think there was a mention of that north side, which was really hard to photograph and capture to kind of, convey all that we can see back there, because we see original window sills, the window openings, doorways, foundation elements, and things like that on the exterior. But if you would like more evidence of that, we can definitely provide more interior photos that just kind of show how those buildings were connected together.
Yeah, I think that would be a really cool study to see how, like, maybe the elements that were originally there that still exist, and to distinguish those or designate those somehow. I think would be just useful for somebody reviewing the application.
Certainly.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Christy, this is Lars, I had a question on the current square footage and a guess maybe at the original 2-home square footage.
Oh, I didn't think to include that in that piece. So that's a really good piece for comparison then.
But not something that you would know off the top of your head.
No, not, I mean, maybe Amy or Marilee know that.
Yeah, we were just trying to figure out if we had any way of knowing the current square footage, and we don't. Probably of the individual apartments we could give square footage, but not of the overall structure.
All right. Well, thank you. I think that's all. Thank you very much for bringing this forward. Any clarifications or further comments from staff before we deliberate?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'm sorry, and then we will open it up for public comment. So again, this is a public hearing portion of our agenda. So if you'd like to make a comment on this designation application, you can raise your hand button in Zoom or dial *9 on your phone to raise your hand. If you're having trouble with those, please email landmark@denvergov.org with your name and phone number so that we can recognize you through Zoom. When we do call upon you to make your comment, please note that you'll need to give your name and address, and that you have up to 3 minutes to make your comment, in which we ask that you clearly state your position on this designation application. Is there anything else that I need to see behind I can't, okay. All right, so is there anyone here in person who would like to make a comment? Brad, can you join us?
Do I need to turn this?
No, we
Or
don't.
no?
Yeah.
Okay. My name's Brad Cameron. Again, I live at 1200 Humboldt Street here in Denver, which is a little over a block away from this. I'm president of Neighbors for Greater Capitol Hill, and we submitted a letter, which I think you all saw, and I'm gonna try not to repeat too much of that. First of all, I very much support this, and I'm speaking personally here. It's a fantastic application. I really want to thank Marilee and her family for this. I've known Marilee going back for years because she had attended for many years a Capitol Hill Historic Preservation Committee, and it's just thrilling to see this come forward, and she talked about this building before. And so we are very, very appreciative of her family. Second of all, I really kind of wish the applicant had also listed the criteria. Now I'm forgetting which one it is. The one that's basically talks about a prominent landmark for the neighborhood and the city. Because the Gables really is that. You know, I mean, I mentioned this, I didn't know that Marilee and her family were doing this until it landed on the commission's agenda. But when I mentioned the Gables to people around the neighborhood, people know it. I mean, everyone knows it. It's very visible. And of course, everybody's thrilled. But it just does have a prominence, which I would argue probably would satisfy that criteria. But obviously, and I'm not urging that the application be redone in that regard, but it very much is something that the neighborhood is well aware of. The other thing I want to mention, you know, you really do learn things from these landmark applications. I would have never guessed there were these two houses hidden inside that. I walked around I mean, you know, when I read the applications, like, really? And went and looked carefully, and now, of course, you couldn't get into the backyard of the adjacent house, but it just is amazing. I had a long conversation with the neighbor right across the alley to the west from this, and I told her there's two houses in there. It's like, no, really? It's just quite amazing. And the exterior of it is just spectacular in and of its own right. And then to consider the adaptive reuse of you know, putting this around these two houses, it's just amazing. So very much supported. I would hope the commission would send this forward with perhaps some additional opportunity to identify. But my understanding is there's something like 19 apartments in this. So I can only imagine the complexity of how it all fits together. So anyway, thank you very much, and please approve.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in person who would like to make comments? Is there anyone joining us online who would like to make a comment? Is it Jay? Yes. Jay, when you're ready, you can speak. Please give your name and address.
Perfect. Thank you so much. My name is Jay Homestead. I live at 1449 Quebec Street. I'm the Senior Director of Preservation Advocacy at Historic Denver. For more than 50 years, Historic Denver has championed the protection and reinvestment of our city's historic places and spaces, and we're thrilled to support this designation. The Gables apartment stands as a remarkable example of that same enduring vision, preserving the sense of place that connects Denver's past to its future. As already mentioned, constructed between 1914 and 1915, the Gables represents one of Denver's earliest and most thoughtful examples of adaptive reuse. Rather than demolishing the two single-family homes on the site, the architect worked with master builder Adam Stein, reimagined them into a cohesive 14-unit apartment building. This creative reuse was innovative for its time and remains instructive today as Denver looks for ways to accommodate growth through gentle density, walkable neighborhoods, and reinvestment in existing buildings. It's an early illustration of how preservation through reuse can coexist with progress, creating housing solutions that are both sustainable and enduring. Architecturally, the Gables is distinguished by its Tudor Revival style with craftsman influences, expressed through its half timbering, prominent gables, masonry detailing, and refined composition. It occupies a unique place within Fallis's body of work, standing apart from his better-known Art Deco and commercial designs, such as the Mayan Theater, the Berger Brothers building, and this property retains a high degree of integrity in its materials, design, and continued residential use, maintaining its historic presence in both form and function. Beyond architectural merit, the Gables illustrates a defining moment in Denver's urban evolution when Capitol Hill began to transition from large single-family homes to vibrant multi-unit communities. That shift, rooted in reuse rather than replacement, offers lessons that remain relevant today. So we respectfully urge the Landmark Preservation Commission to recommend approval of this designation to City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other members of the public joining us virtually who would like to make a comment? Doesn't look like it. All right, I should have asked staff at this point if there were any clarifications or
Yeah,
further
just
comments.
As a recap, if you would like to make a motion that includes a condition, we might suggest the condition that Sanborn maps and interior photographs are added. That would be a good, solid, easily achievable condition for us.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, I will now close the public hearing portion of our agenda at 1:41, and we will now deliberate on this application. Commissioners, what are your thoughts? Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I want to say, first of all, it's a really cool building, and I definitely think it needs to be designated, but the adaptive use is a little bit of a stretch for me, just because we don't know. When we think about adaptive reuse, we usually see the original architecture of the original building, and then it's been repurposed for whatever it has, you know, I guess in this case, maybe from single family to multifamily is the reuse portion of it. But what was the original architecture, right? It seems like it was kind of taken over by this mass, right? And I don't quite understand that transition. And you know, there were living units to begin with, and now there's still living units. So I don't know. It's just a little bit of a, in my, I guess, opinion or view of what adaptive reuse, that doesn't seem like that's necessarily appropriate.
If it were, because I was also thinking of the term adaptive reuse, which we use in preservation, which typically means that there's some, like a preservation is truly involved in it, in that, as you were saying, we kind of see expression of the older building, the original elements, rather than say like a remodeling or some other term that might be more appropriate for this, or conversion, plus remodeling, something along those lines. If that phrase was swapped out for something a little less potentially misleading, would you be supportive of that criterion still being applied as like an example of single family homes being converted into a much larger apartment building under criterion
G, right?
G? Yeah.
Yeah, it would have to be a different criteria, I would think, right? For
Of promoting understanding of the urban environment by means of distinctive physical characteristics or rarity. I mean, I think it makes the case of like contextually, there wasn't much examples of this. It was either kind of single family homes being converted into apartments as they are, or being demolished and replaced with apartment buildings. So this is different than either of those.
yeah, agreed. Yeah, I just have, I think that adaptive reuse I have a little bit, I'm hung up on for whatever reason. It just doesn't seem to like translate well.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't just necessarily disagree with the G, with item G, maybe in a different context.
Mm-hmm. Elizabeth, you had a comment, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, I mean, adaptive reuse is, you know, changing from one use to another. And I think you're thinking it's residential to residential, but I would look at it as from residential to commercial or from single family to multifamily. So it is a change, and they are very different and operate under a completely different set of rules. So to my mind, it meets definition of adaptive reuse, even if it's not a traditional definition of adaptive reuse, and I support this becoming designated.
Yeah, and Elizabeth, I don't disagree with you that I don't have too much of an issue with it going from a different use and a different classification. It's more of like architecturally, right? It's like, what was it before to what it is now is, right, is a little bit of a leap that we don't know, it's an unknown.
Right, but I also think that, I mean, it has the famous architect and all that, and the building is very special, and it would be a shame to not protect it from future development.
I would say that even though we don't, we can't really know the details of the two original buildings. I think there, as we've discussed, there are clues that could be further worked into the application, the Sanborns and the photos that help show the evidence of the previous buildings, so that it's not a question that those were subsumed into this apartment building. So it seems like I lost my train of thought, but that there's I don't think there's doubt that that is what occurred, but we don't know, we can't know the details of the original buildings. But I don't think that necessarily precludes us from agreeing with the fact that it did occur and that this was a different way of creating apartment units within Capitol Hill. Are there any other comments?
I agree that some of the additional documentation that's been mentioned, I think would strengthen the nomination. I agree that this is certainly a building that deserves designation, and I feel that it given the in reviewing the application, I agree that it does meet this criteria. And I think that by providing the additional Sanborn map and any other visuals or documentation of the current conditions would really help with the complete and full understanding of all the evidence, gather as much evidence as possible to capture the original building conditions to the current, so that we can really understand how these two structures really are meeting, even given the lack of drawings or photography. It does seem that there's evidence to be gathered today with how the units are currently.
Any other comments from commissioners? Would someone like to make a motion?
I can do it if.
Okay.
Is there, let's see. I don't have anything on my screen for me to read though. So if you've got something, maybe someone who's there can.
I'm sharing the suggested motion, but it sounds like a modified recommendation with a condition is preferred.
Mm-hmm. So, would you recommend that I add in the language about adding the additional documentation reviewed?
Yes, and probably, so making it a recommend, do we need to, we're recommending approval with the condition of providing. So recommending approval with the condition of providing that documentation.
Okay. I move to recommend approval with the recommendation to provide the additional documentation reviewed in the meeting today, and forward to City Council the landmark designation of 1407 East 11th Avenue, application 2025 L-006, based on the landmark ordinance criteria C, D, and G, citing as findings of fact for this recommendation the application form, public testimony, and the staff report. Did that work for you?
One little revision,
We
like,
need a second and then we can do friendly amendments.
Second. Bree seconds. Thank you, Elizabeth and Bree. Okay.
and yeah, Finley, not only documentation presented today, but also additional documentation outside of today's meeting, I guess. I don't know how to.
I think she means the documentation we discussed, but let's just maybe list it out. Additional Sanborn maps and additional photography. Is that?
Yeah, indicating, yeah, the exist or the newer structure, the old structure, I guess, somehow.
So indicating is potentially extent of existing
Or
versus.
elements of each,
Or differentiating, it can be kind of
yeah,
any of those.
or all the above.
I'm confused on
Okay.
what you're requesting. existing, so
We just,
I'm gonna say we reject that friendly amendment and someone else make another one that's more clear.
I felt like my motion tried to encompass what we just looked at and talked about.
So I think we just want to clearly list what that is and
Sure.
the purpose of it. If
how about this?
Okay.
Character defining features of the original 2 single-family homes versus the character defining features of the current structure.
So I would just say the character defining features of the original homes may not be possible to see.
Okay.
So maybe Sanborn maps and photographs that help show evidence of the original 2 houses.
Sure.
Does that work?
I accept that friendly amendment, Erica.
Okay, do you agree? Yes. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? All right, the motion passes and this will be forwarded to City Council after those additional pieces are added to the application. Thank you very much for bringing that forward. All right, we have one design review item on our agenda. This is for application 2025-COA-923 at 405 North Emerson Street in the Alamo Placita District. Similarly to our other agenda items, we'll first hear from staff with their introduction of the application and their recommendation, after which we may question staff. We will then hear from the applicants for up to 10 minutes as to their presentation on the project, after which we may question them. And then we'll hear from staff for any clarifications if needed before we move into a deliberation for a motion and vote. So Brittany, take it away.
So our one and only design review is for 405 Emerson Street. So the applicant is requesting to alter the front facade, side elevations, modify the roof profile by adding dormers, demolish and rebuild a rear addition that was constructed in 2012, replace windows, and potentially alter the exterior cladding material. So 405 Emerson Street is a corner property within the Alamo Placita Historic District, which was designated in 2000 for its historical, architectural, and geographical significance. The property is a Dutch colonial revival style residence, and the application for designation does document 19 Dutch colonial style revival residences within the district. Staff has not field verified this count within the district. However, the style is well represented, but it is not the dominant style within the district, which is predominantly Queen Anne and four square styles. Within the district, Dutch colonial residents do feature engaged porches similar to this one with overhanging second stories that are common. There are also freestanding porches as well, so there is a mix of these 2 styles. Historic research indicates that the front porch of this structure was enclosed in 1936, which does fall within the period of significance for this district, which is 1889 to 1942. So apologies for the typo in the PowerPoint that you see on the screen. So staff do feel that the enclosed front porch has a historical significance in its own right. In terms of this application, staff are concerned that the project scope and the potential impacts on the historic structure and the character defining features will significantly alter the character defining features of this Dutch colonial revival style home. However, we also are concerned about the application completeness and the accuracy of the presented demolition scope. So we are recommending denial of this application at this time, and we will spend the next few slides going through the project scope and the application completeness. So the design guidelines do talk about preserving original building materials and significant stylistic features and retaining architectural features. So the proposed application scope does present this application as potentially removing the cladding materials, which is pictured here on the screen as in the application materials as just a plain lap cladding material, but as you can see in the photograph of the home is a slightly more decorative material, as I'm gonna just zoom in as it has some decorative detailing. We have not been provided historic evidence that indicates that this is not the original material, so without any further historic evidence, we must assume that this is the original cladding material, which does appear on all elevations of this home and in the dormers. So without any other evidence to the contrary, we are assuming that this is the original cladding material and thus it should be preserved. Therefore, we are not supportive of removing of this original cladding material and replacement with the fish scale shingle that is shown in the application materials. Additionally, this material is shown to be used on the side face of the Dutch gable, which would not be a traditional application of the roofing material to use cladding material on the side of the Dutch gable, which we have concerns over. Additionally, the home does have more colonial revival style details with bullseye detailing and vents that are proposed to be removed and be replaced with these decorative fan work mill details, which we are concerned about. The design guidelines do talk about preserving original stylistic features, which are examples of skilled craftswork, and again, without documentation of historic evidence that these are not original features, we must err on the side that these are original and should be preserved and not replaced with conjectural features. So thus, we are recommending denial of removal of these original elements and encourage preservation of these original elements and not replacement with conjectural features. The application materials are also proposing to significantly alter the front facade window. As you can see here in the application, the front facade window is a two-bay window that slightly projects forward. The applicant does feel that the entire front of the home is an addition. Staff does respectfully disagree with this assessment. Again, we feel that this is an original Dutch colonial revival style home and that this should be preserved as a historic feature of the neighborhood and of this home. And we feel that this historic design element should not be demolished. Additionally, the design guidelines talk about not altering original openings on the front facade and preserving the original position, number, and arrangement of historic windows, particularly on front facades. So we are not supportive of demolishing and widening the original window on the front facade to create a larger three-bay window as proposed in the application materials. On the side facade, which is, this is the side facade that is visible on the side street, there are several alterations proposed to window and door openings. The guidelines do talk about that alterations may be considered on facades that are not visible from the street. Staff are concerned about the number of alterations proposed on this home. However, this is a secondary facade, but it does have visibility from the street as this is a corner home. We are also concerned about the amount and scope of demolition not being accurately documented on this home, which I will talk about in a second. But we are open to some changes on this elevation. However, we do need to know to what extent the amount of demolition scope is proposed. But you can see here that there is an existing door on this elevation that is proposed to be enlarged, an additional window to be added. We do feel that these changes may be acceptable. However, we are concerned about enlarging potentially altering the size and shape of the window in the existing dormer on this elevation, as that will have a high level of visibility. There is an egress window proposed for this elevation. We do feel that that is an appropriate change as well, as this is not the primary facade. But there is not a lot of detail provided for the egress window well, and we do need additional details on that egress window well. We do have a section, and it does appear that that egress window well will be a metal well, which is appropriate, but it does need to be a matte finish well, and there's just not a lot of detail on this section, so we do need additional details on that well. So we just need additional information on what exactly is proposed for this facade, as it is a highly visible facade. And we have some concerns over changes to window proportions and sizes on this facade, as again, our guidelines do encourage maintaining original opening sizes and proportions on facades. On the side interior facade, again, windows are proposed to be altered on this elevation as well. We are less concerned about the alterations on this facade, but again, there are some pretty extensive alterations proposed, with one window proposed to be enlarged quite significantly, a basement window to be lengthened horizontally, and one window to be bricked in. That is, there is no information provided on how that window will be bricked in. The commission in the past has typically required that brick be inset at least 1 inch, so you can still see that original opening location and where that is on the facade. So again, we just are requesting additional details on where those changes are being made, how much demolition is to occur to this building, because those details are not quite clear. But this is interior lot, so we are more open to changes on this facade, as it will have less visibility from the public right of way. On the front facade, again, the front door is shown in plan on the existing and proposed elevations as a full divided light door. In the street view, it is shown as a half-light divided door with panel below. There are not good photographs of the door in the application, but it does appear that it is original door, and staff are concerned about replacement of this door, as our guidelines encourage preservation of original doors, and if original doors do need to be replaced, that they are replaced to match original conditions when replacement is required. A full light divided light door for the front is not typical of the style of this home, and is not something we would be supportive of. So this is something we are also recommending denial of and have concerns over. So did want to point that out to the commission as well, as this is something that does not appear to be accurately or fully represented within the application materials. In terms of the window application request, there does appear to be a few existing historic windows intact on this home, and those are proposed to be retained and preserved. They are not keyed to any elevations within the application materials. However, we are supportive of preservation of these windows, and our guidelines do encourage preservation of original windows, so we are supportive of that project scope. In terms of the other windows, there are several non-historic, non-original vinyl windows, and those windows can be replaced, and we are supportive of the replacement of these vinyl windows as well. However, they are also not keyed to the elevation, so we are unclear as to where exactly these vinyl windows are located on the home. And additionally, when we do talk about replacement windows, we need to know that the replacement windows will match the existing opening sizes, and it is unclear to us if the proposed replacement windows will match the existing opening sizes, as when we looked through the elevation, some of the windows do appear to be different sizes than the existing and the proposed and existing elevation. So we're very concerned that the proposed windows will not match the existing opening sizes, as our guidelines do talk about not using perimeter infill framing, not creating smaller or larger openings, And we are just concerned that this will really change the existing historic character of the home. Additionally, our guidelines do talk about at least insetting windows 2 inches into the wall plane or matching the inset of the historic windows. Several window sections were provided for this application, and where windows are inset into brick, they are inset into the wall plane, but through several sections, they're not inset, so we do need all windows to be inset through all materials. And additionally, there are some window sections through stone, which there is no stone on this home, and there's no stone proposed in this application, so we do need some additional clarifications on the windows inset, and we do need it to relate to this particular home and not to be a generic window inset, as we need to ensure that the window inset is matching the historic window inset and maintaining that historic profile. This proposed application is also proposing to add dormers to the front of the home. These 2 dormers are proposed to be shed dormers. The shed dormers are only showing demolition on the roof, and it is showing 19.32% of demolition on the roof. And there will be fairly visible, because again, this is the corner property. When staff discussed the dormers, we did feel that we could potentially be supportive of the dormer on the side interior lot, but we were not supportive of the dormer on the side street due to its visibility on the side street. Our guidelines do talk about minimizing the visual impact and setting side dormers back from the front facade. Staff feels like these 2 dormers will significantly alter this Dutch gambrel roof profile and significantly change the profile of the roof. Again, the applicant feels like the front of the home is an addition to this home and is not historic fabric, and is thus proposing this these 2 dormers here in this location. Our guidelines do talk about not demolishing contributing buildings to historic districts and or historic buildings with individual landmark designation. So again, this isn't an individual landmark building, but is a contributing building to the Alamo Placita Historic District. And anytime you're demolishing more than 40% of a contributing building, it does trigger a public hearing before the Landmark Preservation Commission. And a public hearing is 40% of the exterior wall surface, 40% of the roof structure, or combined square footage of the roof structure and wall structure. So staff is concerned that the demolition calculations are not accurately depicted in the application for this project. So I have indicated here on the screen rough approximations from staff where additional demolition will occur to accommodate changes in window and door sizes that have not been included in the demolition calculations. So in the top left of the screen, there will be additional changes to the rear facade to convert on the second floor, an existing window into a large door to allow access onto a balcony from the new proposed addition. On the ground floor on the rear elevation, an existing window will be converted into a double window with more square proportions. On the street fronting side elevation, again, an existing door will be converted into a double door, and a new window will be added to this elevation. An egress window will be added. A dormer will be added to the roof, and the proportions for the window and the existing dormer will be modified. And then on the interior facade, again, on the roof, a dormer will be added, an existing basement window will be enlarged horizontally, and an existing window will be enlarged quite significantly. So these are just additional areas that have not been included in the demolition calculations, and we do just need these to be included as part of the demolition calculations before I feel comfortable fully assessing how much demolition is occurring to this home. So finally, this application does include a rear addition. As I stated previously, the existing addition was constructed in 2012, so it is non-historic and can be demolished. The proposed addition is located at the rear of the home and is subordinate to the historic structure. It can be recognized as current construction and will be clad in vertical beadboard siding. It will have casement style windows that generally have header and sill heights that align with the proposed and existing windows. As I stated previously, all windows do need to be inset in the wall plane. And again, the windows appear not to be inset into the wall plane based on the window sections that were provided. So that will be needed for us to feel comfortable with this addition. The existing addition and the proposed addition do have a flat roof. This home originally did have a rear porch, so we do feel that this flat roof is indicative of that rear porch design and character, and feel comfortable with that flat roof design. The overall addition height, form, and massing is subordinate to the primary addition. It is set back from the side street. And the addition is compatible with the surrounding historic context. So we are supportive of the rear addition. However, we are very concerned about the proposed alterations to the historic structure, as we feel that is not respectful of the Dutch colonial revival style structure and will significantly alter the historic character of the proposed structure. And finally, this is minor, but we do need some details on what is proposed for the site work. It does look like there is going to be some new horizontal fencing and some new patio work proposed. So that is another reason we are recommending denial of this application, as there's just some incomplete details on the proposed site work as well. So at this time, we are recommending denial of this application, as we are very concerned about the proposed alterations to the historic structure and the completeness of the application.
Thank you, Brittany. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff?
I do. Yes. I am curious. So, I mean, you said it yourself about the completeness of this submission, and it does just seem there's a lot more coordination that needs to happen. So I'm curious what the conversation has been with Landmark and the applicant in terms of proceeding with bringing this project to this meeting for our review.
The applicant had let staff know that they wish to proceed with this meeting.
What's the process for so there's a disagreement as to whether or not the front is the addition, or the front of the house is an addition or not?
There is a disagreement.
Yes. How would that evidence possibly be presented?
I think the applicant is gonna present their case to you as the commission, and you can discuss with the applicant and make that determination.
Elizabeth or Rusty, do you have any questions at this time? Okay.
One question. Is there a permit history record for this residence?
We do have the 1936 permit for the enclosed porch. We do also have some use permits that shows the upper floor was used as like apartments. So we did pull permits and stuff for this.
So within the period of significance, it's always been a two-story.
I think we're ready to hear from the applicants now. They are joining us virtually.
Nope,
No, they're
in person.
Okay. So you probably heard, but if you would begin with your name and address, please, and then you'll have up to 10 minutes.
And I'm pulling up your presentation, so just give me a second to get that up. We have a new PDF service, and it's clunky, technical. It's not great.
Good afternoon.
One second.
We just want to make sure everything's ready for you. pulling up the timer so that. All right, whenever you're ready.
Thanks for having us. My name is Harrison Hine, and this is my partner Jill Wyman. We're the architects representing the homeowners at 405 North Emerson Street. Our personal address is 561 North Logan Street, also just in the neighborhood. A couple of years ago, we were approached by these clients who were experiencing significant settling and structural cracking to their home. Do I just hit the skip? Oh, keep going. There'll be some. Gun. So these are some interior pictures showing the cracking throughout the house. This does align where that enclosed porch addition happened. They also, as we just heard, the second floor of this home was remodeled at some point to be apartments. And so has a very strange and unusual floor plan upstairs with lots of little rooms. And so their other goal was to reconfigure the second floor plan to be conforming to modern building codes in terms of egress windows for bedrooms. If we go to the next, right. If you can't quite see it at this distance, but there is a significant crack on the exterior of the home, along with that front porch, where the bricks were interlaced together with the existing corner. And so there's actually nothing tying that brick wall to the original home. And then evidence continues as we excavated underneath that, about 10 inches under the ground. There's no foundation or footer. It's just bricks on compacted soil as if it was the foundation for the porch, but wasn't holding a second story above. So we go to the next one. Here's some more evidence of that foundation height, how little wall is actually underground. And then when the whole home is sitting on a full height basement, that front area has a small access port to this crawl space, which shows modern concrete being poured inside, as well as modern framing on the floor joists and insulation, indicating that this is not the original home. The bricks also don't match. Continue. So this is kind of a report we put together showing what helical coils will need to be put into the ground to support that with a new foundation, to prevent further sinking of that front facade of the house. And then we got into, I guess you can keep going. Again. And again, I guess. The bottom there is the original existing floor plan with these very small rooms and the bedrooms not having adequate sized windows to meet egress, like code requirements for egress. And so our proposed plan was to split that large front bedroom into the two bedrooms in which we were trying to achieve 2 egress windows. And that's why we're here today, not seeking approval, but to kind of get some guidance and help from you guys on how to best do this, where we have submitted both dormers as well as changes to the front window facade. And we're really only seeking one of those 2 solutions. And that is all for getting egress windows into those bedrooms. And we're not sure which is the more likely to get approved. So we submitted both, hoping that we could find out which was the preference of the board and work from there. Which also speaks to the completeness of our application. We have not done any of the construction coordination or drawings past this point in the event that we do end up needing to change significant amounts to our proposed floor plan if we are unable to proceed further with putting windows on the front facade or south facade of this home.
Yeah, so our goal today is, while we have full intentions to satisfy landmarks requirements on the detail level and the granular level of our documents, including the facade materials, doors, things like that. Our biggest goal today, to reiterate, is to find out what is the best path, because we receive a vague answer on whether or not we can increase or add the dormer on the south side, or increase the window opening on the front facade on the second floor. So yeah, back to what Harris said, we're just seeking guidance because I think you had asked what is the process, or maybe you did, when there's disagreement on an existing structure and it's the front window that is under contention right now, or I guess in question right now. It is our belief that this front part of the second floor was added sometime after the porch was enclosed. And those are the windows that are currently vinyl. So we're just seeking some guidance, and I mean, in a perfect world, we'd love approval to increase that window size on the front facade, which would help us get egress windows to meet our clients' modern family needs before they dump a lot of investment into
Structurally.
yeah.
So yeah, are there any questions?
Yeah, if you're done, commissioners, do you have any questions for them?
Do you have a structural engineer look at this, or this is just your own evaluation?
We did have our structural engineer evaluate it.
Yeah.
Okay, and he came to the same
Conclusion that none of the floor joists were tying through to the front rooms.
Thanks.
I am curious, we see this a lot with some projects. Were the current homeowners aware that they were buying a property in a historic district that's also a contributing property?
You can ask them they're sitting right there.
We did not know the depth of like requirements to like improve a home like this, but we were aware that we're in a historic district and we had to honor that. And that's kind of why we're going about this process the way we are, to seek guidance and figure out how to make it work.
I just wanted to click. Sometimes it comes up with other homeowners, that's why I was asking.
And our goal is to just be very good stewards of this home and to give it the structural rehabilitation that it desperately requires, and also to bring up the infrastructure like the electrical and the plumbing up to safe code, because currently it's not. So because of the substantial investment for our clients to do that, we also really need this home to meet their family's needs, which is why we really need a solution to get egress windows on this second floor.
I do have another question. So you guys had mentioned, what I heard was 2 layouts or layout options for the second floor.
Yep.
And in my review of the drawings, it was not clear to me that you guys were proposing 2 options. So could you provide more context?
So yeah, originally we had proposed just the front facade change, and then with that in contention, we had suggested a skylight and then a dormer to get that egress window in. And our idea is, I mean, I guess ideally we could have more windows into that room, but we're really just looking to do one or the other so that we can get 2 conforming bedrooms into the front and second floor of this house. And that could be achieved with the symmetrical north-south dormers, or it could be achieved with the 3-panel, 3-frame window in the front. It doesn't need both.
And our proposal of the front window change was intended to be sensitive to the existing architecture and the style, because it is, we would be using landmark approved window styles, and
In the guidebook for the Dutch Revival style, it is recommended to use a 3-pane window on the second floor, the Alamo Placita guidelines. So that is why we chose that window style.
So just to clarify, we, as a commission, we aren't, when we're presented with projects, we're not kind of choosing options that are presented before us. We're looking at the completion of the application and what, if we can approve it as is, or if we have conditions. So we're not in a position to, choose one way or another forward for you. And that's part of why there's a working relationship with staff
Yeah.
on your part. So just to clarify, we won't be in that position of, picking options that you're presenting to us. It's kind of looking at the application you've turned into us and seeing, if we're able to approve it, or if we have conditions for approval, or if we need to deny at this time.
So if all of the coordination and the completeness of the documents were up to your guys' requirements, and the only question of the design was currently this front facade window, I guess that's kind of the clarity that we're seeking, is where would you guys move this particular design element?
Well, again, we're not in a position to design for you either, so
I guess-
we will be talking about this in deliberation as far as what we think is appropriate or not, and
The challenge for
when
us
you
is
follow the guidelines.
we're also trying to keep this economically viable for our client. And if we go in and spend 50 to 100 hours detailing our plans out to get denied, when we could have just had an easier communication about what is and isn't allowed on the project, that saves our clients thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. And
Yeah, I
that's
think-
what we're trying to avoid here, is going down this check and guess route.
Right, and so I would just say again that a working relationship with the staff and responding to their questions as you go forward, and having that communication with them is key to that.
I think it would have been helpful if I had been provided your structural assessment. We didn't have a lot of conversations regarding the
That's-
evidence.
Because it was outright denied in our first
It
communication.
was not denied. I told you that I strongly believe that I felt that this was original and to provide me additional evidence. And I would like to continue to work with you on what is the best solution. And I didn't hear from y'all for several months. So I am open to continuing to work with y'all. And that is my job here, and I would like to continue to do that. But the LPC, they can only review what is in front of them. They can't, look at things and be like, yes, no, like that is not what the LPC does. This is what I am here to help you with. So I wasn't aware that you needed that additional guidance.
Well, I guess this
So
goes
all I
back
can
to,
do right now is, give you this recommendation of denial, and we're in a really unfortunate place right now. And, I feel like this is not the best way to debate the application, and I would have loved to have looked at your structural report, looked at some of this additional evidence that you were given. I don't give denials, only the commission can give denials. So now we're at this place where you're getting a formal denial and recommendation from me of denial. So we're in a really
I
bad
guess we're
spot.
confused though, because back to his original question, when we do have a point of contention where the evidence does show that this is not the original facade, but you say you strongly believe it is, how do we move forward
So
with
the
it?
commission is
Only
gonna
you?
go into deliberation, and they're gonna
No,
give
but
you
without the
some.
commission, back in our original communication, since I'm only communicating directly with you, how do we?
I haven't spoken to you. I've only spoken to Jill.
Well, we've had virtual meetings with
Yeah,
you
I've had
before.
multiple virtual meetings with you and we've met several times. But this still isn't answering my question. When we don't believe you to be correct on a topic, how do we approach with our difference in opinion if it's not this committee review?
I'd recommend a third party, like a structural engineer, if they have an evaluation or report, providing that as she's already recommended. That's probably the best way to resolve that issue. That's how anybody would resolve that issue, I think, in any kind of dispute claim, right? Is a third party objective opinion about what they think the issues are.
And sharing that information with staff to then continue that.
That way it's not coming from a biased party of any sort, right? It's coming from a third party objective opinion. That's how resolution claims are settled.
We can absolutely submit that.
I think, so are there any further questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I was just curious as to how deficient are the existing windows, the pair of windows on the second floor on the front facade from complying with egress, or do they comply with egress window dimensions in operation?
In the current floor plan, they do comply with egress because the current floor plan has that entire front as one large room.
A singular bedroom of the home.
But if there was a demising wall,
Correct.
It would not comply.
I'm confused as to, it looks like either those individual windows do or don't meet the definition.
For egress,
Yes, I
Rusty?
don't
Yeah, I mean, how, I don't understand the answer. How does the demising wall between that pair of windows change the egress windows from, those windows from being compliant egress windows to not?
Get a dividing wall in between. You would not be able to frame a wall and still get both of those windows into 2 bedrooms. You'd need to separate them, which would enlarge the bay window.
So there's inadequate width or
Correct.
demising wall to fall. What is that dimension? It looks
Probably 3 inches.
seems resolvable, but
Yeah, I agree with you, Rusty. The question I have is, I mean, well, you talk about this in deliberation, but is it even material to have egress windows? Those are grandfathered, right? If they're not.
Is it necessary?
Well, I wasn't aware that egress was part of the concern, so that is, you know, something I'm definitely happy to work with the applicants on. I think there are several solutions that we can work on. But they also are creating the conditions on the interior.
Okay, any further questions for the applicants?
So to understand the front addition, in your investigations, are you saying that everything from the front door forward was not original?
Correct.
Correct.
So
if we would
There's
have a side, do we have a side elevation?
yes.
I can definitely go to a side elevation. Sorry, too far.
Or if we can even go back to the slide.
So where would the line be?
So if you go back to that slide where I actually have the line drawn in from a picture,
Well, from
it's
here,
it's like right in between there is the corner of the original house.
and the bricks were just butt jointed?
But
Yeah.
joined it together and they're all separating. And so there's probably been 4 or so inches of settling and the cracks are continuing to enlarge.
The bedroom that currently sits in what we are suggesting is an addition on the second floor is currently sloping about 2+ inches toward the southeast corner. And there's an evident difference in flooring and joists from basically where the threshold on that elevation would be into the interior bedroom, if that makes sense.
And evidence of cracking in the siding above?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the roof is new, so there's no evidence of cracking on the side above.
And then
Okay.
the existing, you will be cleaning off the brick, is there stucco on there right now?
No,
It's
this is
painted brick.
painted brick.
Okay, so I think I think we have reached the end of our questions for you, so thank you for that. Before we move into deliberation, any further clarifications from staff?
I do not have any further clarifications other than I am more than happy to work with you And I just want to make that clear, like, I am here to help you, like, that is my job. I'm not here to deny you, like, I want to make that clear, like, I want to work with you on this application. And if you felt like I was being adversarial, I apologize, that's not what I'm here to do, like, I want to work with you on this, like, my goal is always to help people.
I appreciate that.
All right, thank you very much. You can go back to your seats and we will move into deliberation. Great, what are commissioners' thoughts?
I'm confident saying if the application is deficient, just on that basis alone, we keep or
And to add on to that, I know we talked about the egress windows quite a bit, but there clearly are just other elements that also need attention and further discussion with Landmark staff to make sure, just providing that clarity that Landmark is asking for in terms of the scope of demolition and what items are going to be salvaged for reuse. That clarity will really strengthen this application, but at this time, it does feel incomplete.
Yeah, and I'll just, for the whole group, the benefit of the whole group, what I whispered to Chris as a sidebar is, as I look at the photos from Google Earth at that condition, at the filled-in porch, to me, it speaks to a filled-in porch, not in front addition. And then the slope of the porch, or the interior room now, was sloped to drain because it was exposed to the elements. So I would just say to staff, as you see that evidence, I mean, keep all that in mind.
Yeah, I agree, Nick. I think it's not clear at all that this is actually an addition that we're seeing. It's just the enclosure of the porch that was there. All right, so any other thoughts on recommendation of denial based on kind of deficiency of information at this point, then clearly need for further communication. But
Yeah, I just want to reiterate, staff is the gatekeeper, right? And they're gonna be your best advocate and help you guys in iteration, after iteration. So I just want to reiterate that one more time.
they are very helpful and very
Yes.
knowledgeable.
Absolutely.
Rusty, any further thoughts from you?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, can I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, Bree.
I move to deny application number 2025 COA 923 for the demolition, alterations, and addition at 405 North Emerson Street as per design guidelines 2.1, 2.10, 2.14 to 2.16, 2.18, 2.20, 2.23, 2.28, 2.58, 2.59, 3.1, 3.4, 3.6, 3.7 to 3.10, 5.2, presented testimonies, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Thank you, Bree. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'll give it to Rusty since he's been hanging out with us online. Thank you, Rusty. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes and hopefully we'll see you again in the future after opportunity to work further with staff. All right, we have a business item. This is our certified local government annual report. So business items are items that require a vote and action from the commission and may include a presentation from staff. So I think we'll be hearing from staff about this CLG report. We'll have opportunity to ask any questions if needed for deliberating and voting.
Yes, hi all. So for those of you who aren't familiar, so I'm Kara with Landmark Planning and Regulatory. So you see me for designations and for CLG reports. So we are a certified local government, which means that we are certified by both History Colorado and the National Park Service that we are going to perform our duties and preservation up to nationwide standards. Every year, and this is the federal fiscal year, we produce a report that provides a variety of details, including when I emailed you, like, what is your training? That's one of the questions they ask us, of which, Erica, thank you. I will clarify some of your training. I got it mixed up, so I will clarify that. But one of the things it does do is provides an opportunity to talk about like the number of projects that you guys have done. So Brittany, if you could move to the next slide. This can kind of talk about what are the projects that we have reviewed internally and what are the projects that you guys have reviewed. So we're looking at federal fiscal year, so it doesn't quite add up to our calendar year. So like when Jen does a year-end report, it'll be a little bit different. But what we found is that our tax credit applications, we didn't actually track them in 2024 because for most of it, it was so low that we didn't track them. But we did 76 applications that went to you guys for review. For our CDE and demo reviews, so our demolition reviews were up by about 33 per year. But it's really in the design review, which you can see down in the blue, seeing the number of increases in applications that we reviewed administratively is an increase in 319 this last year. You guys reviewed an additional 71 applications in fiscal year 2025 over 2024. So it was a total of 336 design review items over what we had done the previous year. So I know staff has felt very, very busy in a very hard, complex year for the design review and the teams doing tax credits. So a great job on them and a great job on you guys for the increase in the reviews that you are doing. There's other details included in there, but I thought these were the most salient that you guys would appreciate. But we would love it if you guys could approve the CLG report. It'll go to History Colorado. I'll email it to them this afternoon, and then they will use it. And typically they would send it on to the National Park Service for their use. I don't know with the shutdown when they send that on, or if they send it on and it'll get reviewed at some other point. But this is just sort of a review of what we've done over the last year. Happy to answer any questions for you guys. Any questions?
When's it ending? Sorry, so 2025, is that from November?
Yeah, so it goes from October 2024 to the end of September 2025.
Oh, so
it is
super current.
Yeah, so it is the federal government's fiscal year for 2025, which does not align with the calendar year. But yeah, so it was just basically up to like doesn't include this last month, but it's pretty current.
Any other questions?
Great job.
And there is a motion on the next slide. It's that I did it. There we go.
Great. Anyone want to say anything else, or if someone's ready to make a motion, please go for it.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the 2025 Certified Local Government Annual Report per presented testimony, submitted documentation, and information provided in the staff report.
Thank you, Chris. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Nick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion has passed. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of staff for all of your very hard work. Really appreciate it. All right, I think that is the end of our agenda. And so I will close our meeting at 2:45. Thank you very much.
Thank you.